Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Judge Jeanine Pirro.
She's the outspoken host. Judge Jeanine Pirro is dominating the headlines right now.
This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome, everyone, to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. I hope everyone is enjoying their day so far. It is a wonderful day here in New York City. It's sunny, and I love it when it's sunny. And we've got a great show lined up for you, and we're armed and ready to serve justice with you and all my great listeners on the Red Apple Audio Network. Well, here we are. A lot of stuff happened this week. Pope Francis died earlier this week at the age of 88. It marks the end of a papacy that was kind of grounded in a different approach to religion, a kind of a leftist approach where the Pope actually got involved in a back and forth with the President of the United States, Donald Trump, both in the first term and in President Trump's second term. Very interesting kind of papacy that he had. And we will talk to Lauren Green, who is the Fox News religion correspondent. She is in Rome today. She is following all of this, and it's not her first time in Rome during the conclave, but she's there for the Pope's funeral and the subsequent conclave where the College of Cardinals get together to pick a new Pope. The question, of course, is going to be whether or not we'll get a more conservative Pope, someone more in line with Catholic dogma, whereas Pope Francis was certainly reflective of the country he grew up in, Argentina, during the Juan and Evita Perón period. He was constantly criticizing capitalism, and we'll see which way the College of Cardinals go with the new Pope. And also this week, the Democrats continue to defend the MS-13 gang member, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who we found out that not only were there 2 orders of deportation, where an immigration judge said you need to go, and an appellate immigration judge said, yes, you need to go. And we found out that his wife, we don't know if it's his real wife, but he calls her his wife, actually called the police, filed police reports, and described a battering that Garcia gave her, ripping off her clothes, punching her, slapping her, which allowed the court to give her an order of protection. Now, I used to hand out these orders of protection, and to be honest with you, you don't do them willy-nilly. You do them based on evidence. She had evidence. She had bruises. She had information, a police report. And so now we have a guy who's not just under 2 orders of deportation, but he's a dirtbag who is an MS-13 gang member, according to the orders of deportation, and he's a batterer. Oh, but the Democrats are flying down there. They can't wait to see him, to make sure he's okay, make googly eyes at him, make sure he's okay. And now they're worried about the other ones, the students. They want to make sure they're okay in prison. Are they getting their asthma medicine? Well, you know what? When is the last time these Democrats went into an American prison and worried about American prisoners? And not for nothing, but these students on a student visa, if they ever admitted that they were coming here to spew hate, to shut down universities, to promote a foreign terrorist organization like Hamas, they would never have been allowed into this country. And now that we want to get them out, the Democrats want to follow them and protect them. You know what? Get rid of all of them. Get rid of the ones who come on our campus and frighten the Jews. And I want you to think for 1 minute. What if they weren't just preventing Jews from going to class and threatening them? What if they were blacks? What if these pro-Hamas kids said, no blacks are allowed on campus. No blacks are going to school. We don't want them here. The Democrats would be all over it. But no, if it's a Jew, it's okay. And I'm not Jewish, folks, but it's okay. If you want to be an anti-Semite, have at it. America loves you. Baloney. It's time for them to go. All of them. Well, anyway, we've got two great guests today. We've got, as I said, Lauren Green, who's going to talk to us about what's going on in Rome. And we've also got a good friend, Dr. Betsy McCoy. There's a lot of talk about tariffs and, what's going on with China. But there's an even more significant issue going on with China. And that is that China and other foreign countries make our medicines. We are reliant on them for medicines. We saw it during COVID, during the pandemic. But is anyone trying to do anything about it? Only Donald Trump. Joe Biden could care less. I mean, he wasn't even aware of it, I'm sure. And so we've got to take away their ability to make our medicines. It's a national security issue. And we've got to start promoting and giving benefits to companies to start making medicines and medical supplies here. So it's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Judge Jeanine.
Hi, I'm Jeanine Pirro, and this is Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Today, we're talking about China being in a position to control our medical supplies and our medicines. Well, it's time that we took the creation of medicines and medical supplies back to the United States because we can't rely on a foreign enemy to make our medicines. And the same with your money. You can't rely on anyone but yourself to make sure that your money and your future is protected by Colonial Metals Group.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by Cadillac. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the Cadillac Certified Service Fresh Start Tire event. Visit Cadillac.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
And now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money?
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
Anyone can follow. It takes something special to be an original. Which is why the 2025 Lincoln Navigator SUV arrives with new ways of surrounding you in luxury, including the ultra-wide 48-inch panoramic display and the multi-sensory Lincoln Rejuvenate experience. A true original never stops evolving. So meet the 2025 Navigator, the original that's all new and better than ever. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Lincoln and Navigator are trademarks of Ford or its affiliates.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Joining us is Lauren Green, who is the Fox News chief religion correspondent. She has been with Fox reporting on all of the great major events in religion for many years. And she is an incredible woman who is very knowledgeable on these issues. And we are thrilled to be able to have her on this Sunday morning because she is right there in Rome, Italy. Lauren Green, thank you so much for doing this. It has got to be an incredible experience being in Rome, being near the Vatican. What is the atmosphere like there?
Well, it's an amazing attitude because, remember, this is the year of Jubilee, so many Catholic pilgrims had planned to be in Rome, and especially at Easter, because it's a year of Jubilee, which is every 25 years. So many of them were already here and then saw the Pope and then realized the Pope was dead on Easter Monday. So people who had thought they might see Pope realize they're here for now his funeral. So it's a much different attitude, a much different atmosphere, really. I mean, people are standing in these long lines to see the mortal remains of Pope Francis, and they're standing in line for up to 5-6 hours to get a bare glimpse of him. But a lot of people are doing it.
And where is his body in state, Lauren Green?
His body's lying in state in St. Peter's Basilica. It is in front of the altar of confession, which is just above the crypt where the bones of St. Peter, the first pope, is at the tomb of St. Peter's. You know, the Bible says, on this rock I will build my church, and was the rock of Peter, the first apostle. So it is now, that's what St. Peter's Basilica is. And so Pope Francis's body in a very simple wooden coffin is placed in front of that altar, in front of the altar of confession, facing the people on a slight incline. Not on a high bier or anything like that, but on just a slight incline. And so as people pass, they can see him in his red robe and mitre, and his hands crossed with carrying a rosary. And it's quite beautiful, but it's quite it's very emotional. I mean, I've seen people weeping and crying. We went through the line yesterday, and it was. You realize it's an historical event, but then it's also a time to say goodbye to a beloved man.
Yes. And, I understand that it was the Pope who decided that his casket should be made of wood and nothing special.
Yes, this is part of Pope Francis's wishes. He wanted to simplify all of the pomp and pageantry surrounding the funeral of a pope. This is in line with his wishes. He was not an elaborate man. Remember, he issued the papal palace to live in and opted for the more humble domicile of the St. Marta residence, which is really kind of a hotel that John Paul II kind of built for the purpose of housing a lot of the cardinals that would come for big events, and maybe the consistories, or yes, the death of a pope and the conclave. So he opted to stay in that residence rather than the papal palace.
Okay, so, before we get into his background, and I'm so excited to have you on the show, Lauren Green, I want to talk about the procedure. So cardinals are coming in from all over the world, as long as they are, as I understand it, under the age of 80. These 135 cardinals are eligible to vote. They vote in the Sistine Chapel. Talk to me about that.
Well, right now, they are coming into Rome for the funeral, and every day they've been having these general congregation meetings to talk about the details surrounding the conclave, which they have not actually officially said which date it will start. But then what happens is there are 135 cardinals that are of voting age, under 80, but there are 252 cardinals in total. So many of them can come, even if they're not voting age, and be a part of the congregations to talk and to explore the future of the church, or what it should be. So as of last Thursday, there were about 113 cardinals in town for the congregation meetings, where there'll be meetings every morning. And then they will it is a secretive ballot, There are 132 now, the Vatican says, that actually will be coming for a voting age. One is infirm and will not be coming. There were 2 more that dropped out. So I believe that there are 132 that will be coming. Remember, the number is 120 that John Paul said. So they're not down to that yet, but we're not sure if they're going to take the 132 or if they have to discount some of the votes or decide who gets to vote and who doesn't. So,
but Lauren, I don't
sure
understand. You indicated that there will be 252 cardinals. Why can't they vote?
Because they're over 80.
Really?
Now, only cardinals under 80 can vote.
So it's the age thing.
The ones who were, right, exactly. But the ones over 80 are welcome to come, but they can't be in the conclave. They will not be voting.
When does the conclave start? When do the cardinals go into, secrecy, the Sistine Chapel, leave their phones, go in there and vote? When does that happen?
The soonest it can begin is on May 4th or 5th. But the cardinals have not said what, but they can't go beyond 20 days after the Pope's death. So within that range, that's when it'll start. They haven't said when the conclave will actually begin. But they can't, many of them probably won't leave. So we're assuming that it would be more on before May 4th or 5th.
Okay. You were so knowledgeable on this stuff, Lauren Green. I mean, take us through the next few days since the conclave is not yet meeting. And, are they politicking these cardinals? I mean, if you watch the movie Conclave with Ralph Fiennes, and the interesting thing is they didn't dream of nominating him for an Academy Award, and I thought he was phenomenal in it. A lot of people, that's their only reference. We're not involved. We don't have cameras in there.
I had a problem with that movie.
Yeah,
I could not get through half of that movie. I'm sorry. I just it just. One of my producers had said, doctors should never watch ER. Lawyers should never watch, Law and Order, and people who cover religion should never watch religious movies made from Hollywood.
That is so true.
I got so frustrated. I go, okay, I'm done.
Okay, but there is politicking in there. I mean, they can try to convince the other person that they would be the best pope. Yes?
They're human. They're human. And so, but I have never met a cardinal who did not exude some level of priestly godliness. I just have never met them. And maybe they do exist. There are 252 cardinals. I've not met them all. I've met a lot of the American cardinals. But they are very godly men. And I never get the impression that their first thought, their first goal is to be pope or is to be the archbishop of a major metropolitan archdiocese. I just have never met that person. Most of the cardinals and the priests and the bishops I've met are very happy serving their flock and being shepherds and trying to bring them to Christ. Those are the men that I know. The conclave version, but I guess there's, we're human. We're just human, right? So there is that little bit of, and then there's that phrase, of course, those who enter the Sistine as a cardinal, as a pope will exit as a cardinal. Basically, it's, listen, I've been involved in pageants. I understand how it works. I just want to serve the world and be happy and, have world peace.
Well, wait a minute. Weren't you Miss somebody? Wait a minute. I was looking you up, Lauren. You were a Miss Minnesota? Where?
I was Miss Minnesota.
Yes.
Yeah. And back
so
in
pageants for sure.
I know pageants and I know how they work. And the conclave is not a pageant, but it is a voting situation where someone is going to determine somewhat subjectively who they believe is the best candidate to lead this organization forward. But there is a great deal of prayer that goes into those decisions. In fact, every cardinal must take an oath of secrecy, but also when they put that ballot in, yes, they say, as God is my witness, as God is my witness. And I don't care if you're an atheist. When you say those words, God as my witness, you're thinking, well, if there is a God, I am actually swearing on him right now, so I better be careful. I just think that there is a sense in your heart when you say, as God is my witness, I put this vote in, believing that this is the person who should be the next Bishop of Rome. the successor to Peter. This is when you get in front of those judges, that when you get a judge and somebody takes an oath, things change.
Yes,
things
indeed.
change.
Finally, let me ask you this: we've never had an American pope. Any chance of that?
Yeah, no. No, and when I love Cardinal Dolan.
I do too.
If I were voting, I'd vote for Cardinal Dolan, and I think he would be the right person for the papacy and for the world. But the world is more than America, and so far, nobody really wants an American pope, and I don't think that the world is ready for that. I kind of believe it may go back to an Italian. Everybody's kind of betting on the Secretary of State, Cardinal Parolin, which I think it probably makes sense because he's the second in command. He's the closest to Francis.
Yes.
There's a continuity there that you kind of want when a pope dies.
Yeah.
In fact, Francis had the second highest number of votes when Benedict was elected. So it made sense that they went for him this time, in 2013. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren Green, you are a font of information. Lauren Green, God bless you. Thank you. And coming up right here on the Red Apple Audio Network, we've got someone who's going to talk to us about China and the fact that they're making our medicines. Do you think that's a good idea?
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, May 1st, only on Netflix.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner, by knockout, is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Click fast and save big. Shop Blinds.com's Spring Cyber Monday sale and elevate your space with new custom window treatments today. DIY or let our pros handle everything from measure to install. Blinds.com makes upgrading your home easy with free virtual consultations, honest pricing, and free samples delivered to your door. Shop confidently with our 100% satisfaction guarantee. Hurry to Blinds.com's Spring Cyber Monday sale now. Save up to 45% with minimum purchase plus a free measure. Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
We're shipping Mother's Day gifts with a rapid-fire round of questions. Ready?
Yes. My gift. Can you pack it?
Yep.
Ship it?
Yes.
Guarantee it?
Of course.
Oh, send gift baskets?
For sure.
Protect electronics? Dog-proof it? Return it if they hate it?
Yes, no, and yeah.
Are you the UPS store?
Hey, we have a winner!
Visit theupsstore.com/guarantee for full details. Most locations are independently owned. Product services, prices, and hours of operation may vary. See Center for details. The UPS Store. Visit a store today.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is my friend, Dr. Betsy McCoy. We've known each other for decades. And Betsy is one of those people who's out there and who is an in-your-face New Yorker. Although, I don't know, Betsy, are you from Connecticut or New York?
No, I'm in New York. I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, of course you are.
I've lived in the same apartment since 1976. I am definitely a New Yorker.
Okay, and Betsy is not only a fighter, but she is someone who has a column in the New York Post. And this past week on Thursday morning, she had an interesting article or an opinion piece, I should say. But before we get to that, Betsy, I want to talk about China. And, I remember during Obamacare, I used to walk around with that 3-pound notebook of Obamacare, the 1,700 pages that you have to pass it before you can read it. You remember that. But now we are in a situation that I think is even more dire. And that is that during the pandemic, we learned how dependent we are on China for medical supplies as well as medicine. Talk to me, walk us through that. What is that about?
This is really a big danger, and right now we can see it because China is playing hardball, Judge. It's not just about tariffs and the global economy. They are really trying to put our lives and our society at risk. So right after Trump rolled out his initial tariffs, China hit back, not with a tariff hike. That would be just a tit for tat like the other countries did. No, they totally suspended exports of rare earth minerals and magnets. Now, that's very interesting. They were unwilling to sell them to us at any price because they know that without those rare earth minerals and magnets, our auto industry is kaput, our defense industry is kaput. Now, what's next? Cutting off our medical supplies. And this is what you're getting at, Judge, because the fact is that well over 90% of our generic drugs originate in China. And our masks and our nitrate gloves and our blood pressure cuffs and all the materials we need literally to stay alive in hospitals. And you're right, we learned it during COVID because at the very beginning of COVID, when Donald Trump started calling it the China virus, what did China do? They nationalized the 3M mask plant and cut off all shipments of masks to the United States, like a warning bell.
Yeah, and when they cut off those shipments of masks, what happened was we found that we were not in a position to provide them. And in addition to that, the amazing thing is that, Mr. Genius, who I think should be indicted, Anthony Fauci, he had no provisions. He had nothing that he had prepared for. There were no masks in the NIH. There would literally, although he predicted in 2017 that there would be a pandemic, he actually predicted it. He didn't prepare for it. So we were reliant on China for masks. We are the greatest country in the world, and we rely on them for masks and medicines as well. Why doesn't the United States make its own medicine and masks, Dr. Betsy
You're
McCoy?
quite right. We should be making our own medicines and masks. The shocking irony that antibiotics are totally sourced from China. Can you imagine if our Army and Marines were on the ground and needed antibiotics and we couldn't get them because China cuts them off? That's the end. You can't survive in this world without antibiotics. So we have to start producing these goods here. And really, it's shocking after what we learned during COVID how irresponsible the Biden administration was. And during Trump's first term as 45, he set up something called the Strategic Active Pharmaceutical Ingredients Reserve, like a big warehouse for all of the medical things we would need, right?
Right.
When Biden left office last November, it was only 1% stocked.
Yeah. What a shock. So what is it about certain medicines, or is it our inability to manufacture? Is it that there isn't any benefit from the government to produce medicines? Is it an intentional reliance on China is certainly not an ally. And also why is it that we put ourselves in this vulnerable position after what we've been through with COVID?
Yes, you wonder, what are all those bozos in Washington doing, Judge? What are they doing? All those members of Congress, all those people in the Health and Human Services Department, what are they thinking? They're not doing their job. But we have to bring home the manufacture of medical supplies and drugs, and we can do it. We need investment tax credits to make it worthwhile. And I'm going to use the word, we need the T word, we need tariffs on the foreign production of those goods so that when investors here invest in making masks or antibiotics or blood thinners, they know they're not going to get whacked with cheaper foreign competition before they get off the ground. So we have to make it a design, we have to have an industrial policy to make our nation self-sufficient in these life-saving products. And actually, I think we can do it in upstate New York the whole swath of upstate New York that was once devoted to things like producing cameras and Chinaware and other things.
Rochester, is that what you're talking about?
That's right. We can turn that into the medical supply capital of the nation.
Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, I mean, we've got to bring that kind of manufacturing here with, as you say, all of the incentives that can do that. You know, this is a national security problem, Betsy McCoy.
Very much so.
And you know, the kind of nonchalant attitude where, you know, we rely more on China for pharmaceuticals than anyone else is a very frightening, and it's stupid. How's that for a simple word? And the list of drugs that are made in China, I mean, when you go through the list, it's unbelievable, the drug list of things that are created and made in China that we are not, you know, creating here. So what do you think in the end is going to happen? What's going to happen with the tariff problem? And, you know, China's smart enough to say, we're not going to raise the tariffs. We're going to just not send you the stuff that you need. Who wins in this thing?
China can't win a trade war, a tariff war, because unlike the United States, which has a huge domestic market, a market every other country in the world wants to sell into, China doesn't have a domestic market. Those people in China are so poor they can't buy the huge amount of goods that the manufacturing plants in China are spewing out. They're all for the export market. So when President Xi says, oh, there's no winners in a trade war, sorry, there are winners in a trade war. The U.S. can be a winner in this trade war, which is very different from how Trump is dealing with the other countries. Those are our friends, our allies, and he is tiptoeing around, reaching deals for comparable tariffs. You do this, I'll do that. He's making nice. But with China, I do believe we have to play hardball because they're not in it to be a fair trading partner. They should never have been admitted to the World Trading Organization.
Yeah, well, they are, unfortunately. And, you know, there's another country that is providing the U.S. market with prescription drugs, and that is India. India has a huge percentage of exports into the United States of prescription drugs. India, and then China. And the amazing thing is that, you know, hopefully with President Trump and this golden era, we'll be bringing all of that stuff back to the United States. The amazing part of it, this is, Betsy McCoy, is that you got a president, at least who is trying, who is taking on the big issues that other presidents were happy to just sit and ignore. And whether it's trade and tariffs and manufacturing and, you know, making sure that we bring back, you know, the economy in this country, he's doing something about it. He's putting his reputation and his political capital on the line. They just sat there. The rest of them sat there and did nothing. It is shocking.
So right. Before Trump became president again, you didn't hear anything about our urgent need for rare earth minerals.
Right.
No one else was discussing the security and economic aspects of Greenland, for example, the dangers in the Panama Canal. We never heard about any of this. It was like a 4-year lobotomized administration.
That is amazing. And so tell my listeners why the rare minerals. Why do we need them?
These rare earth minerals are essential for making batteries and for making electric vehicles, and they're also form an essential component in many types of defense armaments, including aircraft. So we have to lock in supplies of those rare earth minerals. And as you may recall, just a few months ago, Trump was discussing having access to the rare earth minerals in Ukraine. Right. Wherever he goes, he has that on his mind because he knows we need it.
Interesting. And, you know, you remember with the electric cars and the electric car mandate by the Biden administration that, you know, they're building all these lithium batteries in China that we need for the electric cars. I mean, it's an intentional reliance on a foreign enemy. And the outrageous part of it is that in order to create these lithium batteries, they have to have these coal-fired plants. But they need us for the coal. You know, I mean, forget the, you know, the environment, forget the, you know, the atmosphere. I mean, we're going to breathe that air sooner or later anyway. Nobody seems to care about it. But, you know, we've got a little leverage on coal, don't we?
We have a lot of leverage on China, and it's very unfortunate that in the mainstream media there's so little understanding of that. But the tariff negotiations with these other countries, friendly negotiations, are so distinct from China, which is an enemy that wants to destroy us. They're spewing out manufactured goods, not for their own market. They're flooding the world to destroy the economies of their rival nations. That's the real picture here, and we have to stop consuming them. Remember during World War II, you probably heard your grandparents talk about victory gardens and things that Americans went without because we were at war with Europe, right? That's the attitude we need to have again.
I don't know, Betsy McCoy. I don't know if we'll ever get that back. Hopefully we will. Hopefully, with time and with President Trump, there'll be a recognition that until we are united in a pro-American, a pro-capitalist, a pro-family kind of country, we're not gonna survive. But I want to do a quick turnaround here because on Thursday you had a very interesting article in the New York Post, Legal Aid's relentless pro-crime push. And let me just start by saying, as a DA and as an assistant DA for 3 decades in New York, we were publicly funded. Legal aid is publicly funded, but legal aid, unfortunately, and I want you to expand on this, is looking to create even more rights for the defendant when, as I well know, the victims are the ones ignored. What is the point of your op-ed piece?
Well, the point is we all understand that the indigent deserve to be represented, and most people think that's what legal aid does. But if you look at what they actually do with the millions of dollars, our tax dollars, state and local tax dollars poured into legal aid, what do they do with it? They're up in Albany lobbying the state lawmakers. They're before the city council lobbying those lawmakers, and they're filing class action lawsuits, all with one goal, to make it easier on the criminal, to change what they call the legal landscape so that criminals have more rights and police have no ability to fight crime. And let me give you an example. Right now, the Legal Aid Society is demanding that when police apprehend somebody for shoplifting or what they term a low-level crime, it's not low-level in my book, but a low-level crime, they don't want that person arrested anymore. They want for that person to just get a ticket, like as if you ran a red light, right? A summons to appear at a future date. Well, that's preposterous. First of all, if you don't bring them in, you have no opportunity to figure out whether they're already wanted for a more serious crime.
Yeah, you can't print them and mug them. I mean, what's the point? It's like a parking ticket. Here's a ticket. See you later, maybe.
And you won't see them later because I've looked up the state data and they appear less than half the time. So you're really letting them off totally. You're just decriminalizing shoplifting. Well, and that's what legal aid does. Yeah. You're going to smile when I tell you this one. Legal aid had the gall to demand that the NYPD turn over photographs, addresses, and tax ID for every active duty officer. They wanted to create a mug book. But instead of a mug book of perps, a mug book of cops so that their clients can go through and complain about the cops and identify them. Even Judge Arthur Engeron, remember the fellow who presided over the Trump trial?
Yeah.
He even ruled against it. He said that's like putting a billboard in Times Square and a target on every police officer. Yeah. But that's what legal aid is doing now. They're trying to prevent adequate law enforcement.
Well, not only that, I just love it. And, I used to try cases with legal aid all the time. And I mean, legal aid, they call handcuffing dehumanizing. Well, no kidding. What they did to an innocent victim or what they did to a business owner is dehumanizing. What they do, they started the story, and, look, if they could, they would give them all brass stars and let them go on their way. Right. But in the end,
I sat down with Ray Kelly last week. He and I have launched a real team effort called Save Our City. And the real focus is better law enforcement, getting the criminals off the street. And I went through all of this with him, and I hope that everyone listening will come to our website, SaveOurCityNY.org. We have a couple of great events coming up, one with Daniel Penny and his lawyers, another one on...
I think I'm speaking at that one with Danny Penny.
Great. Another one on how to run a small business in this very anti-business environment we call New York.
You know, here's the thing. I mean, I absolutely agree with all of that, but we can get together. The most important thing that's got to happen is the bail laws have to be revoked and they have to be repealed. And in the end, you've got Heastie and Andrea Stewart Cousins, and they have no interest in that happening. And until that happens, criminals will run free. And whether or not they have to get handcuffed, whether or not they have to go into the precinct doesn't really matter. What matters is we are a lawless state, and it's all on the Democrats. I'm sorry, I'm being political.
You are so right.
Yeah.
You are so right. And I keep saying, we're going to save our city in Albany. We can't do it in New York City alone.
Exactly.
We have to do it in Albany. It's why I'm seriously considering running for governor next year, because we have to change those laws.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, Betsy McCoy. We need someone who's an in-your-face person to run for governor. But in the meantime, we want to thank you for all of your op-ed pieces that are so good on the criminal justice system and on the fact that, unfortunately, the medicine that we are importing from China is literally putting American lives in danger. So, Betsy McCoy, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to having you back again.
Your show is a public service. It's terrific.
Goodbye, Betsy. Thank you. Dr. Betsy McCoy. And up next here on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will gavel out with my closing argument. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show. This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Okay, now it's time for me to gavel out with my closing argument. You know, a lot of interesting stuff going on in this country today. And one of the most important things that Donald Trump is doing is trying to protect the United States and trying to make sure that we are no longer reliant on countries that do not care for us and, in fact, do not have any interest in protecting us by providing us with medicines. We've got to do what Betsy McCoy said. We've got to make sure that we give companies the ability to get tax credits, investment tax credits, and bring home the manufacturing for medicines and for medical supplies. This isn't going to be the end of it, folks. We saw it with the pandemic. We saw we couldn't get the masks, and then we got masks that were subpar, and we can't be beholden. And it's only Donald Trump who's willing to take on the big issues. It's only Donald Trump who says, you know what? I'm going to clean the swamp. I'm going to close the border. I'm going to protect Americans. I'm going to level the tariff playing field. And it's not easy. And I know it's bumpy. We all do. But at the same time, what we've got to recognize is that change does not come easily. And the fact that he's willing to even say, I want to tackle these problems, I want to make it better for us, puts us in a position of making us not only healthier, but safer and more prosperous. So I can't believe we're out of time already. Make sure you join us right back here next week. It's going to be an incredible week because after the funeral, we've got, several days before the College of Cardinals meets and the conclave, and we wait for the black smoke, which means they do not have a cardinal pope, or the white smoke, which means the College of Cardinals has agreed on a new pope. These are historic times, folks, and stay with us. So we'll see you back here next week, same time, same place, for the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.